So what is Terraform? So Terraform, it is an infrastructure as code tool from HashiCorp. Okay. So HashiCorp is the vendor of Terraform. So if I went to HashiCorp, hashicorp.com, right? Went to hashicorp.com, went to HashiCorp. So this HashiCorp is the vendor of Terraform. It created Terraform and maintains it. So if you look at products right here, we will see that we have Terraform is one product, which is an infrastructure product. It is used for provisioning cloud infrastructure. We have another product called Waypoint. We have Packer. We're going to have a module on Packer where we are using it to build AMIs. So we're going to use Packer to build AMIs. So HashiCorp is also a vendor of Packer. We have a product called Nomad. Nomad is like the version of HashiCorp's version of like Kubernetes. It is used for orchestrating, scheduling and orchestrating. It is like a Kubernetes that is maintained by HashiCorp. Okay, so Nomad is also a product of HashiCorp. Now, when it comes to security, they also have Vault. So we have a module on Vault. We'll go through Vault. Vault is what is used for identity, for managing secrets, for managing permission. So this is a product from HashiCorp. Now, we do have Boundary, right? And Consul is used for networking. So these are some of the products that HashiCorp, as a vendor, that HashiCorp maintains. Okay, so Terraform is one product that is very, very popular. Very popular. It is used for building, changing, and managing infrastructure in a safe and repeatable way. It uses what we call HashiCorp configuration language, which is a human readable. So the configuration language, again, these are interview questions. Terraform is written in what we call HashiCorp configuration language. This is a human readable language. It reads configuration files and provides an execution plan, which can be reviewed before being applied. So once we have our configuration file, once we have Terraform installed, and we have what we call a configuration file, a file that has our code, that's what we're calling a configuration file, then what happens is that it is going to do Terraform will read that file, and as it reads that file, it will give us what we call a plan. It will tell us, based on this configuration, this is the plan. This is what is going to be created, right? It will be reviewed, and now once it creates that plan, it's for you to review it before it's applied. Now, it says that it is platform agnostic. Platform agnostic just means that you can manage heterogeneous environment. You can manage it on multiple clouds. It's cloud agnostic. I can use Terraform to provision on AWS. I can use it on GCP. I can use it on Azure. I can use it on Kubernetes, right? I can use it on different environments because it is cloud agnostic. It has what we call state management, meaning it creates a state file when the project is finalized. Then it uses this state file to create plans and make changes based on the desired and current state of the infrastructure. And because of that, it creates what we call operator confidence. So in a nutshell, if I can just illustrate this so that we understand a little bit how Terraform works. So let's imagine you have a house, right? That's your house. But you also go ahead and buy another house. Now, this house, you buy it in let's say it is in a gated community, right? It is in a gated community. You have that particular house. So this is basically, that's the gate to get to that house. So, but you have your house here. Now, you find that on this particular house that you own, you need to do some renovation. You need to do some work. Maybe you need to add a bathroom, right, inside of this house. Now, you are not a contractor, okay? So what you do is you are going to call, let's say you're going to call a contracting company. That's a contracting company. Once you call the contracting company, the company comes to you and you do it. You give them specification. You say, okay, I have a house here. Now, this particular house, I need something done. I need a bathroom to be added, or I need a bathroom to be remodeled. Okay. Now, what this contractor does is the contractor will go to the house. But as they go, they are going to go through this, because it's a gated community. They will go to the house, but they will go to this house based on the permission that you're giving them. It is you who is authorizing them. Okay. So they'll need to have some form of credential. You're authorizing them. They'll go and look at this house. And as they look at this house, based on the specifications, okay, based on the specifications that you gave them, I have a list of things that needs to be done. So based on these specifications, they will go here and they are comparing, based on these specifications, can this work be done? So once they do a site plan, then what they will do is that they will come back. They will come back to you. Now, once they come back to you, they will say, okay, this is based on your specifications. Now, we've seen what can be done, and this is the plan. Okay? So they're going to bring you back a plan. Okay? Back a plan and say, we've seen what can be done, but this is the plan. This is what is going to be done. This is what can be done. Now, are you okay with this? So you as a homeowner, you will do it. You will okay that this is fine. So once you okay it, then they will go back and now do it and do the job. Okay, and do the job. Now, I've used that illustration just to demonstrate how Terraform works. So let's say this is your local environment. Okay, so this is your local environment. All right, looks like it's hanged up. So let's say this is your local environment. Okay, so with this local environment, you have Terraform installed. Okay, Terraform is installed in this local environment. This is your AWS environment. Okay, AWS environment. For you to do anything in AWS, you have to be authenticated. You have to be authenticated. So let's say I have a configuration file. I want to create a VPC. This is my configuration file. So once I initialize Terraform from HashiCorp, right? Once you run Terraform in it, as we will see, it is going to download for you what we call the provider. The provider is like your API. If I'm working with AWS, it is going to download for me AWS API. Okay. If I'm working with Azure, it will download for me the Azure API, which we'll call provider. It will download Azure provider or AWS provider. Now, once it downloads it, it brings that provider to your local environment. Okay. Now, the reason why it brings that provider here, it is because that provider is the API that understands AWS language. So when I'm writing my configuration file, this provider is what is going to interpret my configuration files and translate it to what AWS understands. Okay. So once I have my configuration files and I initialize, my provider is downloaded. But because I'm trying to create infrastructure in AWS, I need to give it credentials. I need to give Terraform credentials, right? Because I need to authenticate it so that it does work on my behalf in AWS. Now, once it reads that configuration, it makes a call to AWS, but then it is going to generate for you a plan, right? It generates for you a plan based on your configuration. It will generate for you a plan that you have to approve if you want it to go ahead and do it and perform what's the plan based on your configuration. Now, once you approve it, then it will go and do it, create your infrastructure in AWS, but it's using the credentials that you've passed to it. Okay, so in a nutshell, this is how Terraform works. So it's going to use HashiCorp configuration language. We've seen that it reads configuration files. It is platform agnostic. It will have what we call a state management. Now, once it has created that infrastructure, then it will create for you a file. It will create a file. Now, this is hanged up. It will create for you a file here, which we call a state file. And the state file is the state of your infrastructure. It will create for you a document that gives you a whole list of what it has created. And that document is what we call a state file. Okay. So it is going to create for you a state file, and you can have your state file on your local environment. So at a glance, you can see the state of your infrastructure. By looking at the state file, you can see how many resources you have. You can see how many resources are being managed by Terraform. You can see how many resources you have in AWS by just looking at the state file in your local environment. Okay. So now that's what makes Terraform very, very easy to use to manage resources. We can see the state of our infrastructure just at a glance, right?